Hello, Daz Studio patrons. This is Not From This World, and I want to welcome you back to my tutorial series. So for this weekend's video, I thought I would show you a couple more tricks on how to pose, because as we all know, posing can be very time consuming. So I've come up with 3 additional pointers for posing that I hope really helps you out. For the first tip, it's really simple. It's going to get Milika back into this A pose. And so if I just select a pose and put her in that pose, if I need to put her back in the A pose for any reason, we don't have to go back to that Genesis 8 Essentials and then reset the pose. All you have to do is go to your Scene tab and under Milika, just select Hip. And under Hip, that will get you your little toggle in the upper left. Hit the little character here and just hit Restore Figure Pose, and she's back to the A pose. This also will set her back to her home coordinates of 0, 0, 0. So if I were to just put her in an X and Z translation pose here, let's put her at 200, and then let's find her. So here she is. If I were to reset, she will reset back to 0 and she'll go back to the home. So if she's in a pose here and I need to take her home, I'll just hit that Restore Figure Pose and see she goes back to 0. That can be an advantage, that can be a disadvantage depending on what you're doing in your scene. All right, the second tip is something that I have struggled with. I was building a scene for a client in a commission. I had my character in a pose and I posed the character, and I just want you to see this because it's very interesting. If I select Milika here and I go to some of these female poses where they're doing some gymnastics here together, some of these poses, when she gets posed, the coordinates are correct, where we have the red, green, and blue XYZ translate coordinates. They are in the upright position. So if I go to something like rotate, I can rotate her around. And this is very handy because if I need to make adjustments, I can just use my Y rotate and rotate her around. With some of these poses, however, our X, Y, and Z translate parameters get all messed up. So for example, if I choose this one, you'll notice that the arrows are not in the correct position. And this is a major issue because if we try and rotate her, maybe I need her to be facing the camera more, I can't use my Y rotate because she's rotating in some funky position. Now what I notice is if you have your toolbar set at your universal tool, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a blue rotational axis that will allow you to adjust her in this direction. So you can move her so that she's facing the camera. Rather than using our parameters tab, you're going to use the universal tool tab, and that way we can rotate her around, and that also really helps. If anyone knows why some of these poses will put her in a position that changes our translate arrows, let me know, because it's very inconvenient when she can't spin like she's supposed to. And I've just noticed that there are several of these poses where that translation is messed up. Some of them work, like this one, and some of them do not work, which I just don't understand. This position in particular is very frustrating because we can't use these rotate in the parameters tab. Okay, now the third thing I want to show you is how we can keep our figure in the same location when we pose her. So a lot of times, and especially with these gymnastic poses, unless our character is at the 0, 0, 0 coordinate, when we pose, she moves there. So in these positions, for example, if I move to this set, because she's at 0, 0, 0, she is going to pretty much stay there. Now, because she's going to be doing gymnastics with a Genesis 8 male character, her position is adjusted, but she's staying at basically the home coordinates. Now, if I were to take her and move her, like let's move her 500 over. So now I have her with an X translated to 500. If I were to just pose her with these poses, she's going to move back to that default position. So see, she just disappears, and you can see she's back at 0, 0. That is very inconvenient depending on what we want to do. So if she is in a position like this 500, and I want to keep her at 500, it's really quite simple actually. What I do is I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to double click the pose, and it brings up this tab. In the tab, just deselect the translation. So the X, Y, and Z translation, get rid of that and just hit accept. And that helps keep her in a relatively better position. See, she's not all the way back. I wish this was perfect, but see, now to get her where we want her, I'm going to have to do some adjustments. But it's better, and that will help. One of the things that I try and do is I always try and pose at the 0, 0 coordinate system, but it just doesn't make sense sometimes. I want to show you one other thing here. If we want to make this kind of a permanent thing where she never goes back to 0, just select your character, hit the control key, double click on your pose, and then deselect your transition, and then come up to preferences and select this where it says set preferred options on accept. That will keep all of the poses that you create in the same position if you hit the shift key. So let me show you how this works. So I'm going to restore her. I'm going to put her back at 500. So now we've got Milika at an X translated to 500. If I want to pose her and keep her in this position, now I don't have to hit control. I can just hit the shift key, hold the shift key down, and then she will pose in that position at 500. And then I can just make some quick adjustments. So that is actually pretty cool. And it's not perfect, but this does help you when it comes to posing. So we've got the ability to keep her in relatively the same position as we pose her. Don't forget to check out my video on posing double characters. So if you're interested in learning how do I do this kind of posing with the two figures as they're doing their gymnastics, you can keep them exactly the same with this video here. So make sure you check out the double figure posing tutorial that I've created. All right, well, Milika is happy because she got a new computer and she's working with it. So that will kind of do it for this video, but don't forget to like, subscribe, and give me some comments. I am like 5 or 6 subscriptions away from hitting my 3,000 subscriber mark. So if you haven't subscribed, please do it and get me over that 3,000 number. And until next time, have a wonderful night and keep rendering.